Yes?
Yeah, how is this different from the flow state?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that question. Thank you so much. Okay, so here's the thing about flow. So, you know, this guy Csikszentmihalyi wrote this book about flow. And he defined flow as this peak experience that you have when you're doing a task that is challenging but not too challenging, and when you have mastery but not too much mastery. If it's too easy, you don't flow. If it's too hard, you get frustrated. If it's too challenging a task, you get frustrated. So flow is completely oriented towards doing, right? So I did a study with, I've done a study with hundreds of people. And in this study, I asked them to describe their peak experiences. Describe a peak experience that they had in their life. A really profound moment that really carries over in their life. Now tell me, would you describe that experience as a doing experience? Were you doing something, or a being experience? Okay, so about almost 70% of the people I surveyed, who were college students, so I mean they weren't even in an IONS meeting, because I know that this group might be biased more towards being. 70% of them reported being experiences. Sometimes it was lying in the grass, staring up at the clouds. That's a being experience. You weren't doing anything. There wasn't a task to accomplish. There wasn't some kind of a challenge. So I asked them also to rate how, in those experiences, how difficult, how challenging the task was at hand, or and how much mastery, or how much. So mastery didn't play a part. So most people's peak experiences in this life are not doing experiences. The flow people got it wrong. So they drew this quadrant and they said, you know what happens if the challenge is low and and your mastery is high? They said that's boredom. Or there's no mastery needed. If your challenge is low and there's mastery is low because you don't need mastery, that's called boredom and apathy. It's like, that's not what I call boredom and apathy. Because when I have those experiences where I'm just being, those are my best times. Those are really profound times. I'm not doing anything. I'm not being challenged. I'm not mastering anything. Repose is a perfect example. How much mastery do you need for this? Not much. How much of a challenge is it? Well, if you have a problem lying down, maybe it's a bit of a challenge. But for most people, they rate the challenge of it really low. And yet, I love repose. So one of the things they found is they couldn't understand. These researchers studied these people who were in flow in the workplace. But then they'd come home and they'd lounge around the couch. You go, why are you doing that? That's boring. That's not flow. Well, it feels good to lounge around the couch. And so you might like flow at work. But all I'm saying to you is what's happened in psychology is flow is equated with peak experiences. Flow and peak experiences are essentially synonymous in the minds of a lot of psychologists out there. And I'm saying it's one type of peak experience and involves doing, but there are a whole lot of other ones that are being missed. So at the end of that book, I say, I kind of trash flow a little bit because I really feel like my data aren't consistent with flow. You know, flow, some people have the experience of flow, but most of them, that's not.